Good morning, everyone. There is a bit delay in the start of the meet. There is a bit delay in the start of this session due to technical issues. I hope you all are ready with your lecture notes or whatever it is. I expect everyone to just follow through these lectures on a very serious note and make sure you are maintaining a good lecture notes too, which helps for you people to recap things back when required. So I need to start your CO2, which is Spring Framework. Before I start your CO2, just I'll give you a brief introduction of what is necessary to learn from CO1, what I expect you people to be good from Hibernate framework. Just I'll spend 5 minutes of time here in order to make you understand what exactly you need to learn or you need to understand from CO1, which is Hibernate. Then I'll move to your CO2, where I'll teach you your Spring framework. But as I clearly told, I expect everyone to practice this Hibernate framework whenever time permits to it, because of you understand Spring framework in a better way only if you understand this Hibernate as everything is interlinked. So as you people know, by this time our course is Java full stack development. I'll start your CO due to the time constraint. So just I let you know what you people have learnt in CO1, just to recollect or just to brush up all the concepts that what you have learnt from this Java full stack. Your CO1 is Hibernate, which is a framework. In fact, the things which I want you people to look into whenever time permits to you, where I want you people to just go through the introduction of Hibernate. What I mean to say, what is Hibernate? Who was developed this frame? What is the motto of being developed this frame? And why it is such a popular framework? Such a kind of some basic introduction I want you people to understand from this Hibernate. Then I want you people to understand why Hibernate. Here I want you people to just understand, as everyone knows, if our application wants to interact with a database, earlier we used to use JDBC concepts several ways in order to make my application to get connected with a database. And this is a framework which makes my development process so simple in order to make my application to get connected with Java application. That's the reason why people use this Hibernate framework. And we have few advantages to which I want you people to look into. All those advantages once you understand why you need to learn this framework. Then advantages of Hibernate. There will be many advantages, but one of the two very popular advantages of this particular framework, because of which your Hibernate becomes very unique and very popular in market. One is automatic table creation, where the table will be created automatically in a database whenever you start working on an application. Whatever the tables are required, Hibernate will take care of creating all those tables in a database. And the next one more advantage due to which Hibernate is so popular, where it is database independent query language. It supports a new kind of query language. The way you know SQL, it supports a new kind of query language called SQL, where this is database independent language. What I mean to say, your application can able to connect with any kind of database, not only a specific database like SQL and MySQL. Such a kind of advantages I want you people to look into. Uh, all the advantages from this framework. Then, in order to start working with any framework, in order to design your Java applications, you need to understand the architecture of Hibernate, where it actually consists of three layers. One layer is the layer where your application resides. The last layer is the layer where your database resides. And you will have an intermediate layer between these two, which we'll call it as an Hibernate layer, where this layer actually consists of two important files. One is configuration file and the next one is mapping file. I'm not looking into all these topics in detail because of I need to start your CO2. Just I'm giving a brief note on what you people has to learn from CO1. Is it clear? So that's what you need to understand in Hibernate architecture. That's you need to learn from Hibernate architecture. Once you understand what is Hibernate architecture, then you need to understand the different files that what we are going to define. At a later stage, when we start working on an application, our first class is POSO class. Just I hope by this time everyone is aware of what is POSO class and how to create this POSO class and why it is so important to have this class while you work on projects. That's what I expect you people to have. Then configuration file. And you know the purpose of this configuration file in Hibernate, where you will define three important properties in this file in order to make your application to be get connected with a database. One is database properties. Your next one is Hibernate properties. And the last one is mapping resources. What I mean to say, whatever the mapping files you will define in a project, you need to make sure you need to define all those in configuration file too. And the next one is mapping file. The purpose of this mapping file, because of which in fact the Hibernate is very popular, where this particular file will helps to make your Java object to interact with a database. And you know everything in this Hibernate will happen through an object a database, like the way you people have learned Java persistence API during your enterprise programming. Once you're done with understanding this configuration file and mapping file, then I want you people to practice few Hibernate examples where you understand how your application can interact with a database and try to perform different operations on a database like standard operations, CRUD operations. Because of table will be automatically created just to understand how to insert data, how to retrieve, how to update, as well as how to delete. After practicing all these examples, I want you people to uh, look into Hibernate query language. This is the unique feature or unique advantage of this Hibernate framework, where it provides a new query language for us, where those queries are independent to database. What I mean to say, whenever you start defining SQL queries in your application can interact with any database, not to a specific databases. If I use SQL rather than SQL, the way how I keep on using so far, all my SQL queries can able to just connect with a limited databases like either MySQL or Oracle databases. One or the other day, I may come across a situation or else situation may demand me where my application has to interact with any database rather than a specific database. In such a cases, you need to prefer Hibernate query language over SQL. So here I want you people to understand about how to use your SQL queries and what are the different SQL queries. So I want you people to spend some time here and just make sure you understand a lot of things here. While you are working on this Hibernate query language, you need to understand query interface by which you can able to implement this SQL in Java application. Then I want you people to look into Hibernate criteria query language. where in this particular topic you understand how to start defining the same Hibernate queries based on some specific criteria, or also I can call it as based on some specific restriction. So you can able to implement these SQL queries based on a specific condition. Whenever I implement based on a specific condition, I call that condition as criteria or restriction. Here you need to understand, in order to implement this in your Java application, here you need to understand about criteria interface. Then you need to about two more classes. This is interface. And you need to understand about two more classes called restrictions class, restrictions class, and order class. So these are the two classes which you need to know, and this is the interface which you need to use when you want to implement this Hibernate criteria query language in your Java application. The last most important one from this CVO, which I want you people to look into, is your Hibernate inheritance mapping. As the name itself is clearly stating, you need to understand in what way a mapping can be implemented between the tables, or you can call it as relationship can be implemented between the tables in a database. Whenever you start working on a project, your project may have many number of tables based on the requirements. It's quite important to understand when you start working on a project how these tables has to establish, how these tables has to have a relationship between themselves, which is called as mapping. And in this Hibernate, we'll implement the kind of mapping stating as inheritance mapping, where this inheritance mapping can be implemented using three ways. One is table per class, one is table per class, and the next one is table per subclass, and the next one is table per subclass, and the last one is table per, and the last one is table per concrete class, where concrete class will be also called as an abstract class. Sir, what is the difference between these three when I start implementing this inheritance mapping using Hibernate? If it is a table per class, when you execute your Java application, a table will be created only for your base class. No tables will be created for any of your derived classes. And if you are implementing table for subclass, a table will be created for your base class as well as derived class, where the primary key of base class will act as a foreign key to your derived classes. Whereas in the case of table per concrete class, I want you to understand again your tables will be created for both base class as well as derived class. But your base class here will be just an abstract class, which I'll call it as a concrete class. What I mean to say, it will create a base class with a class name as a table name. Have any properties getting defined in the class, just it's an empty class. It will create all the tables for the derived class whenever it is creating a table for every individual derived class. Where that particular or specific derived class will have all the properties of your base class too. This is what table per concrete class. This is what you people are expected to learn from CO1 without fail. And just I gave you a brief idea, or just I gave you an overlook of what I expect you people to learn, what I expect you to understand in order to start working on projects. Then I'll move to your CO2. Then I'll move to your CO2. And you know that your CO2 is all about a framework called Spring. Your CO1 is all about Hibernate. In the similar way, your CO2 is all about one more framework. Where the framework name is Spring Framework, which is very popular right now in industry. I'll let you know why it is very popular when you step into industry in order to start working with projects, the projects are of type Java projects. Most of the projects will be based on Spring framework. Spring nowadays, either Spring or microservices. We will come to understand about all this step by step. So the way how I let you know what you need to learn from CO1 before I start my CO2 topic by topic. Just I give you the list of topics which I expect everyone to understand from CO2 on a very clear way, so that it will be quite easy for us to implement any Java project using this Spring framework. So the first topic which I want you people to understand, same as your Hibernate framework, some basic introduction with respect to Spring. I'm teaching on a very slower note because of I expect students to have this lecture notes too, where I expect you to understand and maintain a lecture notes too. Then, even though you have an Hibernate framework, I want you people to understand why we are going to one more framework called Spring. Then advantages of Spring. Then Spring architecture. It's very important to understand the architectures of any framework that what you people are looking into. Because of once you understand the architecture, it's quite easy for any developer to start working on the same framework to build many projects. Then dependency injection. Then dependency injection. This is one of the very important topic from the Spring framework. Then I'll teach you inversion of control. Just I'm writing all the list of topics at once in order to get some glance idea for you people what you are going to learn from this Spring framework. Then inversion of control. Then I'll teach you primitive data types, primitive data types, and non-primitive data types, and non-primitive data types. Then I'll teach you Spring DAO using JDBC, where we, in this particular concept, we'll start implementing using a new framework Spring, where I use JDBC concepts in that Spring. Then I'll teach you how to implement this Spring DAO using Hibernate because of I'll teach you Hibernate here. That's the reason why I clearly told you stating your Hibernate is quite important to understand Spring. Then I want you people to understand what is Spring MVC. After you understand Spring MVC, I'll make you people to understand how to implement this MVC architecture in order to build various projects based on the Spring framework using Hibernate. Where everywhere I use this Hibernate concepts too. So these are the topics which I'm going to deliver from our Spring framework, where I hope you people got some idea on what you need to understand or what you need to learn from C. Total, I gave you the list of 11 topics from the Spring framework, which we are going to look into each and everything in detail. In a similar way, even I gave you the 11 topics from this Hibernate too. So these are very important. Just I'll wait a minute time here, where I expect everyone to just make a note of the list of topics that what you people are going to learn from the Spring framework. Once you understand this Hibernate and Spring thoroughly, okay, we'll start, or I'll let you know on a very clear cut how to implement all these concepts that you are learning right now in a real world application too, when we start working on an application. So just make a note of this. I will be back in couple of minutes time in order to start your introduction. Yeah, I hope you people made a note of everything. Just whenever I done with a specific topic, I'll give you a uh, time of 2 minutes or 3 minutes for you people to make a note of everything that whatever I discuss. Just rather than making it as completely a lively class or just completely a kind of YouTube lecture. Generally, how we listen to a YouTube session. Rather than this, we'll make this environment just like a classroom environment so that you people feel comfortable to make a note of everything. Don't think that it is a kind of lecture has to be delivered in the way of a lecture has to be delivered in YouTube. I understand how it has to be delivered, but I want to make this as much like a classroom kind of delivery rather than just a YouTube delivery. How we people listen and how we people practice something just by keeping pause every time whenever you listen to something. Rather than doing that, I'll keep on providing a good time for you people to practice. So I want you people to right now keep your reading as first reading, which is some introduction to understand what exactly this Spring Framework is. So keep your reading as introduction. First of all, I want people to understand what it is and why we are calling this as a frame. What are the different technologies we'll come across whenever we need to a lot of things. Is it clear? I'll give you a brief idea about whatever you have came across so far, starting from your enterprise programming till now, and what exactly those are. So you came across many technologies so far, or many APIs, or many frameworks, or many containers, whatever you call it as. I'll come from starting so that you can understand things in a better way. Whenever you learned our enterprise programming, you started in order to make your application to get connected with a database. Suppose assume that I'm a developer where where I need to make my Java application to interact with a database. In order to do that, first few people started doing the same by implementing JDBC concepts there in your application, where your Java application can interact with a database. But here the process is quite lengthy, where you need to learn about lot of classes, lot of interfaces, how to use every interface, where you need to understand how to write a query, where you need to create a statement, where you need to create prefix, a lot of stuff there that what you have learned here. And I want you people to understand, if people ask you what is a JDBC, the right way to define this is it is just an API. What do you mean by API? As everyone knows that it stands for an application programmable interface, which will have a lot of packages in it, where every package intents will have a lot of classes and lot of interfaces which are predefined, where it provides user can directly start using those predefined classes and interfaces into the application in order to implement whatever our requirement is. So whenever being a developer, if I want to use a class or an interface which is predefined or which is pre-existing rather than defining my I need to use APIs in such a case. In the JDBC, that what you have been learned in your enterprise programming is just an API. Before I make you people understand Spring, I let you know everything that whatever you have studied so far. And the next two things that what you have studied is one is servlet. A servlet. This is in fact CO1 of your enterprise programming course. And your CO2 from enterprise programming courses. One is servlet and the next one is JSP. So what is a servlet? See, rather than calling it as an API, you can call it as an API too. Few people call servlet is an API. Just now I explained what is an API. And you will come across many APIs here. And you can also call it as servlet is one kind of technology. Few people will define servlet as a technology in order to make the application interact with a database. Then JSP, where people call it as an API too. What do you mean by API? Just as I said, where you get everything as predefined, a classes, interfaces, and all. And few people call it as a very popular front-end technology in order to make your Java application to display something as a U. And then in our CO3, I hope you people started with JSF, Java Server Faces, where you need to call it as a technology, which is a front end, in fact, a front end technology is an UI of your application. If you want to be more specific, you can call it as a front end technology. And then you came across EasyB, where few people call it as architecture. Yeah, there is nothing wrong in calling many ways. And the actual thing is easy can be called it as just a container where a developer can start accessing the predefined container in order to implement the concepts of EasyB. What EasyB means, an enterprise Java build, which you know where this EasyB can be implemented in three ways. Is it clear? I'm not going into all those which few people have learned during your previous semester on your Hibernate. Just I'm letting you. In the similar way, so you have seen few things here. Assume that you started looking into your Hibernate during CO1, where people call it as a framework. So what exactly a framework is? What is the meaning of framework is? See, framework is something where it will provide everything to a user or to a developer is to build a Java application where developer needs to take care or developer needs to worry about of how to build just a logic with respect to the application that he has what he wants to build. He should not worry or he should not be concerned about what kind of files he need to carry or what kind of jar files or what kind of whatever it is. He should never worry about anything in order to make his application to uh, used by all the users whoever have want to use it. Just it's all about framework will take care of everything a developer or a user needs to build an application. Only developer has to take care of innovative philosophy. That's what exactly a framework is. So in such a way, and as you know, if there is something that provides everything as a support to my application, where I need to be worried or concerned about my logic and what else a user wants or what else a developer is being a developer. So obviously, frameworks are the one which provides a lot of comfortability or a lot of help to a user to start building any applications. That's the reason why rather than these APIs, rather than these technologies, whatever it is, frameworks are very popular and developers feel so comfortable as they step in an industry to start working with the projects when they have a framework. Is it clear? So now I want you people to understand. We are going to look into one more such a framework where it provides a lot of things for us to start or to build a project, and that is Spring. So what I call this is a framework where this framework is completely based on a Java programming language. So I can call it as a Java framework. So in order to define this definition, I explained all the technologies or APIs or frameworks that what you came across. So I can define this in such a way. Spring is a Java framework. Spring is what? A Java framework which was developed by a person called Rod Johnson in the year 2003. In the year 2003. That's what I want you people to understand. If people ask you to, what is this, you need to say that it is a framework, but obviously Java frame. People may ask you what is JDBC, it is an API. Ask you what is a server. Came across JSP. What do you mean by front-end technology? It helps to design each UI of your project. In the similar way, what do you mean by backend? Any database that would take in order to maintain or in order to have your data. Such a kind of technology by this time you need to be getting it because of you came across many full stacks so far. And now I want you people to understand why this Spring is very popular compared with any other frameworks that what you have right now in the market. Is it clear? I hope you people came across. I'll provide an explanation here for your point to understand in a better way. Later I'll erase this. This is just for the purpose of understanding, nothing else. And I hope you people came across your Hibernate framework in the previous zero, where you understand you can able to build an applications using Hibernate in such a way your applications can start interacting with database. So the applications that what you build via your Java are the applications where these applications can interact with database. So you never build any application where you can able to do something on a web application. I hope you know that. During your entire CO or during your entire Hibernate framework, just understand how to make your applications to interact with a database. And as I clearly told, as you also know how to make your applications to interact with JDBC, then you may question me, sir, why I need to learn one more framework for Hibernate in order to make my application to interact with database. I know, as I can able to do the same from where to where, sorry, using what? Using JDBC, I can able to why I need to go for Hibernate. I want you people to understand the biggest advantage of this Hibernate framework JDBC is this makes your Java development process much more simple compared with your JDBC. Using both, I can interact to a database, but this is quite difficult to interact with a database. So the same process was made bit easy here. What I mean to say, the development process becomes much easy for a developer who wants to build an application using Hibernate. But I want you people to understand you can able to build an application just which can interact with a database. You can never able to build any kind of applications which are web applications. I hope you know what do you mean by a web application. The application which can be accessed using a web or using a where applications can be hosted on a server where users can able to access the applications which got hosted. So I can define in such a way using this Hibernate I can able to build an applications which are console applications which are what console applications. So now what is Spring Sir? Using this framework, what I can able to build. So I'm trying to explain why Spring is very popular compared to your Hibernate. The first point, as I said just right now, still this development process becomes much more easy compared to Hibernate or compared to JDBC to where in using JDBC I can able to interact with a database. That process becomes much simpler for a developer to uh, do when Hibernate came into picture. After the Spring came into picture, the Java development process becomes much easier in order to make my applications to interact with whom? To interact with a database, to interact with a database. So whenever I start building an application where my application will simply just interact with a database, I call such applications as console applications. As you clearly came to know just right now, your Hibernate is capable of creating an applications or building an applications which are only of type console. But the reason why Spring is very popular, Spring allows you to build an applications which are of type console. Just you understand what is console. It also provides a facility for a developer to build a web applications to in this course or any full stack, our main motto is to make sure how to design a web applications. It's not about as simple as how to just build an application. Is it clear? So I can write my second point, whatever I explained stating. This framework or Spring is a framework. This framework is used to build. This framework is used to build Java applications. Java applications from console to web. That's what I just explained right now from console to web. So I hope everyone understands what it is. So we understand everything in detail. Then we'll make a point there so that we can remember for a uh, long time. And the next one, which I want you people to understand, again I'll explain what it is, then we'll state a definition there so that we can understand for a long time what exactly it is. Now come to the next one. So, so come to the next point where I want you people to understand. Whenever you start building applications, assume that I'm going to build an application where my application is to make sure it has to interact with a database. That is a primary thing which I need to know. That's what you people started learning from your Python full stack or men stack or enterprise programming kind of courses. The main motto that what you need to understand how an application has to be designed in order to interact with the databases. Nowadays, it's very important to maintain a data, or else there is no point of being an application getting designed or an application getting it if it never maintains a data. So now, right now, I want you people to understand we are trying to build applications where these applications can start interacting with whom? DB. Just I'm writing here in such a way rather than writing a lot of things. Just I'm mentioning there. Where I know how to do the same using JDBC. And I want you people to understand where you understand how to do the same using one more framework, Hibernate. Then we understand how to do the same using Spring framework. Where in fact you will see whenever we start working with an examples. So this is JDBC Hibernate for Spring framework. Now what I want to convey to everyone or what I want you people to understand, compared with your JDBC, your Hibernate is much easier. What I mean to say, the development process becomes much easier. Here the development process becomes much easy. As I clearly stated just right now, I want you people to understand the application that what you're trying to build using JDBC will take some time to execute your application, whereas the same will be better in the case of Hibernate over JDBC, where the same application executes much faster if you build using Hibernate over JDBC. And right now, I want you people to understand if the same application is getting built through a Spring framework, the execution of this Spring framework is much better than your Hibernate and JDBC. What I can say, any application that what you build using Spring framework executes much faster. Whenever your application is able to execute very faster, I can say such a frameworks are lighter frameworks or lighter weight frameworks. So I want you people to understand Spring is a lightweight framework. What do you mean by lightweight here? Lightweight refers to the execution of an application which was built using the framework. And any application which is going to build using this framework will execute very faster compared to any frameworks or APIs which are existing. That's the reason why people will define this as lightweight framework. Sir, why any application which is getting built over a Spring framework will execute much faster compared to the other things that what we have. I want you people to understand a concept that what you learn in your operating system course, stating that one is process and the next one is thread. Whenever you execute any application or any piece of code on a process, obviously takes much time compared to what thread. So processes will take much time to execute compared to with a thread. So thread will take obviously less time to execute the same. What exactly process is? Process is nothing but where you have several threads inside the same, where every thread will have its individual uh, task in order to execute, and thread is very lighter in weight. What I mean to say, threads executes much faster than process. Whereas in the case of process, I need to wait for every action to be happening. Whereas in the case of thread, because of it is an individual part of thing, it executes on a faster mode. So the Spring framework was designed in such a way where everything executes based on a thread, not as on a process. That's what you understand, and we wrote it as a Spring framework. Because of Spring provides, and the next thing that what I want you people to understand before we start defining our fourth point, I want you to understand this is this framework that what you people are learning right now is called as mother framework or master framework to any existing frameworks which are right now available in market based on Java. So the framework that what we are studying is saying a Spring framework will have a unique feature compared to any other frameworks that what you have so far. Sir, what is that unique feature due to which I am calling this Spring framework as a mother framework or a master framework? And I let you know what is that unique feature. If I look into any framework, let us assume that we know a framework called Hibernate. This is a framework which was designed in such a way where you can able to build applications completely based on that Hibernate concepts. In such a way, every framework will have its unique individuality to start or to build any applications. Whereas this is the only framework which allows you people to include another frameworks into it. So this Spring framework will allows me to include my JDBC API. So this framework in the Spring framework it allows me to even include my Hibernate framework in such a way. Spring is the framework which was designed in such a way where other frameworks can be also implemented into this framework. Because of this is a framework which supports all the other existing frameworks based on Java. This framework is called as a master framework or a mother framework of Java. And that's the reason because of it allows all the other frameworks to be implemented using this framework. That's the reason why this is very popular right now in industry. I can use anything that whatever I like if I start working on the Spring framework. So I want you people to understand Spring framework. Spring framework is called Spring framework is called as mother framework or master framework. Mother framework or master framework. I hope you understand why we are calling it as a master of Java frameworks, master framework of Java frameworks, or a mother framework of Java frameworks. And I want you people to understand this Spring framework comprises of many modules. The Spring framework comprises of many modules where you need to understand all these modules in detail, one after the other, to start working with this particular framework in order to design any applications, whether the application may be a console application or a web application. So the modules such as give me a minute time. Sorry for that. Spring framework comprises of many modules such as modules that what you need to learn. One is about a container called IOC inversion of control. You'll come to know whenever I start making you people working on Spring what exactly this IOC is. If you want to write in full form, you can write it as IOC. Then you will understand what is DAO. DAO is nothing but data access object. As you know, because of you started learning from JPA. JPA is even APA, which you people have learned during your enterprise programming. Whatever I wrote here is APA. During this is APA, you started learning about something called JPA, which is an APA. What is JPA? Java Persistence APA, which makes you to interact with a database. What I mean to say, your application can interact with a database completely based on object. Where ORM comes into picture, you know all this. Is it clear? So I want you people to understand right now. Whereas in the case of Spring, I'll call it as DAO, where I'll start accessing the data that whatever I have in a database. I can do anything on my database based on an object. whether you are Hibernate, whether you are Spring, whatever it is, all these are completely in order to make or in order to work with a databases through an object, and all these are for ORM concepts. So DAO, and you will understand ORM, you'll have an ORM because of in order to support all ORM frameworks here. Then you'll understand in order to design web applications, you need to understand one module saying as web MVC, where as you know what is an MVC, it is one of a very standard design pattern to build a web applications where M stands for model, stands for view, and C stands for and etc. This is some basic introduction about your Spring framework. So I expect everyone to make a note of all these five important key points in order to understand or in order to get in order to know what exactly the Spring framework is. Once you're done with this, then I want you people to understand why we go for a Spring framework. Fine. Now I'll make you understand, even though we have many frameworks like Hibernate and all, why we need to know about the Spring framework and why it is very popular. Even though there are many frameworks which are existing based on Java to build a Java applications. One of the first advantage, as I just defined on our top, using this framework, I can able to build applications from console to web, whereas few frameworks was designed only to design console applications. Few used to design web applications where this will support you to design any web applications where you can start designing a web applications only for the purpose of console applications. Then even you can able to design web applications too. What is the other biggest reason why people are nowadays moving to Spring over an Hibernate? I want you people to understand. Hibernate is just as you know is an ORM framework. Just I let you know what type of framework it is. Hibernate is an ORM framework. We just primarily focus on primarily focused on data persistence throughout your complete Hibernate framework, where you focuses a lot on only about a data persistence. How a data has to be stored in a database, how it has to be retrieved, when it has to be retrieved, how to update your data, how to delete your data. Completely you speak about only data during your Hibernate framework. Whereas in the case of Spring, it provides, whereas Spring provides a wide array of features. What I mean to say, wide array means to say set. You can call it as a wide set of features. So compared to the other frameworks that what you have to build Java applications, this Spring will not focus only on a particular area or a particular thing. It provides a wide range of features or a wide array of features for every developer to start working with a web applications. But whereas in the case of Hibernate framework, that what you learn, the main primarily focus of that particular framework is on data persistence. Spring is not like that. Spring is not about only data persistence. It provides array of features. What kind of features it may be, sir? It allows me to design my front ends in different ways using different APIs, different technologies. In such a way, it takes care of data persistence to it takes care of managing my databases to everything. And what is the other advantages I have discussed with you? Spring can be used with Spring can be used with various ORM frameworks too. Various ORM frameworks. Like just now I told, Spring can be used with Hibernate. That's the reason why I gave a topic too, where I'll teach you how to use the Spring framework using JDBC, using Hibernate. That's the reason why I told just right now saying that Spring can be used with various other frameworks like what? Hibernate, various other frameworks, including Hibernate too. Whereas all other frameworks will never allows you to use other frameworks into that. Spring is the only one which allows you to use all the existing ORM frameworks into it. That's the reason why I clearly stated during my introduction, which was known as a mother framework or which was known as a master framework. Then come to the next one, the advantages of the Spring framework. So write it as advantages of Spring. And once I discuss these advantages of Spring, I'll stop the session here. I'll make sure tomorrow we'll discuss three important concepts of Spring. What I mean to say in our next class, which is Spring architecture. What do you mean by dependency injection? And what do you mean by inversion of control? These three are quite important. We'll understand each and everything in detail. The first half of this EO will take very less time to complete and to understand. The next part of CO is from this primitive data types to the last will takes a lot of time where I need to spend a lot of time to define the whole making you to understand. So the basic things I'll cover on a faster note. All the rest of the things where you need to practice along with me. It takes much time to complete. Is it clear? So I'll write the advantages of this Spring framework, others over other frameworks. I said that it will be handled by a thread, not by a process. So lighter in weight. What do you mean by lighter in weight? Obviously, the performance of the applications that what you design using the Spring framework will be faster. So I want you to understand lightweight, lightweight, faster in performance. Compared to your Hibernate, what other advantages you have with Spring? I hope you know. Whenever you create any Maven project, you know that you will get one dependencies by default in your Maven project, where you call that Maven project as where you call the dependencies as JUnit dependencies. The dependencies which supports for the purpose of your application to be tested automatically using your Hibernate framework or a Spring framework. Whereas the applications which are getting built using this Spring framework over Hibernate will be quite easy for a developer to test and maintain. Anyway, you can able to test your applications using any framework. You can maintain your applications using any framework. The same testing and maintenance is becomes quite easy with the help of framework. This framework over the other framework or over the existing frameworks is clear. So I'll write my third one as easy to test and maintain. Easy to test and maintain. Then one of the other advantages due to these two advantages which I'm going to define right now, Spring is very popular. One is it provides predefined templates like the way you came across many templates when you work on Django. That's the reason Django follows a unique architecture compared to all other frameworks. And you know Django is a framework too. All the frameworks, most probably frameworks which are based on Java will follows a unique and standard architecture called MVC Model View Controller, where your Django follows a architecture called MVT Model View. As the name itself, they define it as a template. Django provides a lot of predefined templates for a developer uh, when they design application. What is the advantages of having templates? When you have a templates, it becomes very easy for a user to start working on any application. So in similar way, Spring is the one which provides again such a kind of predefined templates for a user. So due to which Spring is very popular. The last one is Spring will supports only loosely coupling. Sir, what do you mean by loosely coupling? I need to explain this point, which is very important, where I want you people to understand what do you mean by loosely coupling and what do you mean by tightly coupling. Tomorrow, when I start dependency injection, I'll teach you about this loosely coupling and tightly coupling in a much detailed way, but I let you know what you mean by a loosely coupling or a tightly coupling. Whether it is a Java program, whether it is an application built on a Java platform, I want you people to understand, assume in the case of program how it is. Whenever I have a program where the program is defined with a lot of dependencies in my program, if a program consists, see what is dependencies. When I say a program is consisting of dependencies, all those I'll discuss tomorrow. But I want you to understand what do you when you call something as tightly coupled and when you call something as loosely coupled. I have a program with a lot of dependencies in my program. I'll say such a kind of programs will be tightly coupled programs. And if your program don't have any dependencies, suppose it don't have any dependencies, no dependencies, such a kind of programs will be called as loosely coupled program. Sir, why your Spring supports only loosely coupled program? I want you people to understand whenever I have dependencies in my program, if any of one dependency fail in my program, it leads to my whole program getting failed. Or even in the case of my application too. Whereas in the case of application, rather than calling it as a program, I'll call it as a component. If I design the application, assume my application is having 10 components. And if all the components are depending on each other, I'll call it as a tightly coupled. If one component fails, my whole project it fails. Whereas in the case of no dependencies, or where in the case of where my components are never depend on each other, even in my application, if one component fails, only that particular component fails. The rest of the application works pretty fine. So it's better to have a program or application which is loosely coupled so that the failure of an application is minimal. So what a developer needs to make a note whenever they start designing any applications, they need to make sure they must not have any dependencies in the program or application which they are creating. What I mean to say, they need to make sure that program is loosely coupled. So Spring will not allow a developer to define a program in his own or application in his own. Spring will support only programs which are loosely coupled. The reason why, because if it is loosely coupled, I want you people to understand there is no chance of being your application getting entirely collapsed. Even there may be cases you come across where one or the two components maybe get failed. Such a reason where Spring will not allow for us to define in whatever the way we like. Spring allows us to define only the applications of programs which are loosely coupled. Understand how to when a program can be loosely coupled, when a program can be tightly coupled, and why Spring supports only loosely coupled, as I said, in order to make our application runs pretty fine, even one component or one dependency fails. That is what loosely coupling is. With this, I'm done with the first three topics of your Spring framework. Then I want you people to understand. I'll move to where Spring architecture in my class. That's for today's session. Where we'll resume back tomorrow, understanding what is Spring architecture. And once you understand this architecture, you'll understand how to implement this particular Spring in your like how to design your applications. It's better to define in such a way how to design your Java applications using the Spring frame. Yeah, that's for a day. Thank you for joining to a session. And I hope where you acquired some knowledge and where you got some confidence on what exactly the Spring frame is. Thanks to all people who joined for this session.